let me tell you a story, my story. So 7 years ago, about 7 years ago, I moved from Italy to Amsterdam to join a startup. Back in Italy, I was the tech lead of the web agency where I was working for, but I was also the only developer most of the time. And I was working on front-end stuff, I was working on back-end stuff, I was working on server stuff. I mean, I literally had to go buy a server, put it in the server farm, configure it, and I had to go back from time to time to just turn it off and on again because it was borked. And I was pretty confident about my skills, about my ability. I worked there for 7 years, so I consider myself a senior. And then I moved to Amsterdam to join this startup, and it was a completely different world, a world where people eat tiny balls of sugar on their bread, and everybody was smarter than me. Everybody was speaking a much better English than me. And we were working with stuff that I didn't even know that I was supposed to know. We were discussing about moving. This was 7 years ago, so we were discussing moving from Bower to maybe Gulp or to Grant, or maybe consider Gulp. We were considering moving from jQuery to something else like Knockout.js, or maybe trying this new AngularJS stuff that was coming out. And there was, I didn't know a quarter of the jargon that these people were using. I felt kind of out of place. And I couldn't, for the life of me, I couldn't configure my dev environment as well. That's how it went. I was having an amazing time. I mean, everybody seemed to like me, but I felt like I was out of place, like I was fooling people, like I was kind of a phony. And that I was waiting for the time that someone would just knock on my shoulder and tell me to sit down. I was feeling kind of like this guy over here. I was playing with the pros, but I didn't really belong there. And I was waiting for the no talent police to just come tell me to sit down, because the professionals were playing, and that wasn't for me. So with this in mind, one day I went to work, and I think it was the first time that I was late, and everybody was sitting around the table. They were waiting for me, and I said, okay, that's it. This is the time they finally catch up with me. They finally find out that I don't belong here, that this is not for me. But I mean, I accept it. I fooled them for so long. It's only fair that everybody's here and everybody's waiting for me. So I sat down, waiting for my fate. And as it turns out, not everything is about me. The company wasn't doing very well. The product wasn't really catching up, so we had our decision to make because we were running out of money. And that decision was to pivot the company, change business model, change vision, and unfortunately downscale the company. We went from I don't remember, like 14, 15 people down to just 4 people. And at that moment, I just stopped listening because it was clear. I mean, 15 people, only 4 people left. It wasn't me. So I stopped listening, and it was a surprise when then the CEO told me that, don't worry, Claudio, we're going to build amazing stuff together. And so, together? What do you want? It turns out that it was just me and another developer trying to build a company. And we did amazing stuff. The company is still successful. We went from 4 people to 100 people, more than 100 people. They have offices in all around the world, and they wrote enough legacy code to feed people for a long time. They're gonna have to deal with CoffeeScript and Twig templates for a long time. Sorry. We built this product. I work on entire products just by myself because I'm a full-stack developer. I like that, and I did a lot of stuff. The company is successful, but I didn't feel like it was something that I did. I mean, there were amazing people working for this company. I just did what I was told, and what I was doing was kind of easy. There was nothing difficult there. I really struggle to accept that the fact that I had anything to do with this success. It doesn't matter if it was the CEO to tell me that I did great stuff for people, or when I left people that I didn't know worked for the company, that know who I was and what I did, and they were grateful for everything. And sorry about that. And I guess at this point, because I did my research, I guess that this is not really a unique story. I guess a lot of you, they recognize in some of these patterns and these feelings. And there are people much smarter than me, like this guy over here, that also feel like they're a fraud, like they, Albert, in words that I don't understand and I don't even know how to pronounce, it says that basically people think too highly of him. He didn't do anything that extraordinary. Everybody could do that, you know? Everybody can win a Nobel Prize. Everybody can come up with theories that they cannot even be proved until much later in time. And like Albert Einstein, I just Googled for famous people's imposter syndrome, and this is what come out. But there are a lot of famous people and artists and actors and a lot of people that feel like that. In fact, there's a research that say that about 70% or 75% of people will experience imposter syndrome, or have experienced imposter syndrome, or is experiencing imposter syndrome. So we're definitely not alone in this. And if you're experiencing something like that, or if you had, there are a few things that we can guess about you, and you're most probably an introvert. I mean, there's a reason why we work with computer. There's a reason why a lot of us work remotely, because we fucking hate people. And most probably, yeah, we do. Most probably you're also perfectionist, because that's what we do. We're never happy. We have all to iterate over and over and over again, reaching for a perfection that is actually not achievable, and nobody gives a shit about our perfection, but we do. And we fucking workaholic, because we keep working on stuff, and then we take home our work, we take home our laptop, and if we don't work on work-related stuff, we have side projects, we contribute to open source, we do all kind of crazy stuff. And we're also procrastinators. Sometimes you just go, you're working on something, you down the rabbit hole, and you refactor everything until you find out that you're not sure if stuff are still working, or you don't know what the fuck you were doing, so you have to revert everything back. Or sometimes you just go into a YouTube fancy and you go back. You find yourself watching a weird YouTube playlist of 90s stuff, wherever. And we're afraid of failure, of course, because yeah, we're in a big, scary world, and there are a lot of smart people, and we know that we're gonna say dumb shit and we're gonna fail. And this is something that I realize that I do a lot. We're allergic to compliments. I mean, I'm like Muhammad Ali in his prime. I can dodge compliments like it's nothing. I didn't achieve anything. I don't have any success. If you come to me with compliments, I'm just gonna dismiss them. And all in all, we feel less good then. We always feel like there are a lot of people that are smarter than us, and we're not really that good, as Albert Einstein said. And all this is not something that's it's just me. It's something that people had put into a research paper. This was done in the late 70s. Two doctors, two PhDs, Pauline Rose-Clance and Susan Imes, they did a study on high-achieving women like themselves, and they found out that, I'm going to read here, despite outstanding academic and professional accomplishments, women who experience the imposter phenomenon persist in believing that they are really not right, and they fool anyone who thinks otherwise. And it turns out that it's not only women, as we said, it's 70% of people, it's all across the board. So the imposter syndrome, the imposter phenomenon, because it's not even a syndrome, is not really a psychological illness that is recognized. It's imposter syndrome with imposter syndrome. It's just a set of feelings, and it creates kind of an imposter cycle. It's like a event loop from hell, and you start with doing the thing. Like, I was invited to do this talk, and I was I said yes, and I was all happy and shit. And after like 30 seconds, all this turns into panic and worry, and am I gonna embarrass myself? Am I even able to stand on somewhere and talk in front of people about my feelings? So as you do, I started procrastinating. I mean, I started reading all the blog posts, all the articles, I watched all the talk about the imposter syndrome, and I even considered buying books. And then I realized that I didn't have enough time, so I started panic, and I went into overwork mode, because it was just 3 weeks left before the talk, and I didn't have any slides. That's what we do. We procrastinate, then we overwork so that we can have an excuse for when we finish, like I'm gonna finish this talk and I'm gonna feel good about myself, but then I'm gonna focus on everything that went wrong, all the things that I didn't say, all the things that I wanted to say, but I forget about it, all the word that I mispronounced. And I'm just gonna focus on all the tiny failures so that I cannot enjoy my success. I'm not even gonna consider that success. And then next time I'm gonna do this all over again. And that's what we do. So we're really well trained on this, and we expect it. And it's in the end, it's like muscle memory. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And technology and the web developments where we work, our field doesn't really help with this, because we're constantly feeling like we're shit. And sometimes it's not that we feel like we shit, people tell us that we shit. Like we have pull requests and we forget a comma, we forget a space, we forget, we write snake case instead of camel case, or even worse, we work on open source projects, and people on open source projects, instead of telling you, oh, thank you very much for this library that you wrote, this code that I use for work, they just gonna bitch about all the problems and the tiny issues that they have. And it's even worse if you ask questions on Stack Overflow. I guess lots of you have asked question on Overflow, and people are Stack Overflow, and people are just straight tell you, you shit, you should kill yourself. This is not for you. And that's also because we're in this constant peer comparison. We compare ourselves to other people, and there are a lot of smart people here in this room, like I'm one of them. And we especially compare our messy thought process to the finished work of other people. We see other people code and it looks so clean and tidy, and they don't have any problem with spaces, and we think about our code. Everything is ordered in folder for other people, and we write everything in one single fucking file, and we lost ourselves, and everybody's smarter than us. And success, achievements, they're kind of subjective. It's not like, for different people, they have different notion of success. For certain people is money, for certain people is status. They write interesting library, they give talks, they do a lot of different things, and maybe you're not very good at politics in the office, and other people get ahead of you, and you're doing all the work, and they get ahead, they're not doing anything. And it's hard. It's just a hard word, especially because we're in this. There's a never-ending knowledge. We get bombarded with a lot of notion, a lot of stuff. There's new stuff coming out every minute, every song. Now we have React Lazy, we have Suspense, we have hooks, and that's just React. And we're condemned to keep learning forever and ever. And whenever we have to learn something new, we feel stupid, because it's something totally new. Now I'm learning about FFM and PEG, and I think I need another career to just complete the hello word. It's just crazy the amount of learning that we have to do. And this ties nicely into the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's actually a graph. That's actually the Dunning-Kruger effect graph. So what happens, this is my favorite cognitive bias. There was this guy, MacArthur Wheeler. He learned about the invisible ink, right? He learned about it, and he was so positive that it would work. What he did is he baked into lemon juice. He even took a picture of himself with the Polaroid camera, and he found out for whatever reason the Polaroid camera didn't work, so the image came blank. So he was sure. I mean, it's invisible ink, it works. He went to rob a couple of banks, and he was smiling at the cameras because he was invisible. And by the end of the day, he was arrested, and he said, "What the fuck?" Yeah, that's what happens. So the Dunning-Kruger effect basically says that dumb people, they feel like hot shit, and that's the Mount stupidity over there. You're all excited, and it was all of us when we were juniors. We were starting our careers. We felt like we were invincible. We were a gift to humanity. And then you find out how much you don't know. There's a lot of stuff that you don't know, and you go down the valley of despair over there. And finally, you can go up the slope of enlightenment, and you become an expert. And interesting enough, people with lower skill, they tend to overestimate their own ability, but also people, the experts, they tend to when they compare themselves to others, they tend to underestimate their skills. And it's probably it turns out that they're really good at estimating their own skills. They're just bad at estimating everybody else's skills. They overestimate everybody else. So that looks like a boob, and that looks like a giraffe, but that's not what I meant. That is what we think other people know, the white circle. Other people, they know everything, and we know so little. But what actually happens, most probably, is that we know something, other people know something else, and sometimes this knowledge sometimes overlaps with other people, and we just feel overwhelmed, mostly because there's too much to know. And the problem with the imposter syndrome, the problem with people that suffer that kind of thing, that have that kind of feelings, is that we're missing out. And not only the people that suffer, but also, everybody else. We live in our own comfortable bubble. We're afraid to get out of there because we're afraid of failure. We're afraid if we just keep it quiet, if we don't participate that much, if we don't expose ourselves, nobody's gonna find out about us. And what happened is that we stay at the job for too long. We're underpaid, and we don't ask questions, we don't participate in conversation, we don't contribute to open source, and we don't find better jobs. These are real problems. And unfortunately, I don't have a solution. I'm still battling with my imposter syndrome. I'm a functioning imposter. I try to get better. The thing that helped me the most was actually to find out that this is a thing, that there's a study, they made research paper on it, and it has a name, and a lot of people have it, so I'm not alone. We're gonna learn that good enough is good enough, especially in our work, in our business. We don't have to be we don't have to overthink everything. We don't have to be super perfectionist. Good enough, it's okay. We need to accept compliments from time to time. I'm super struggling with that, but we have to start somewhere. And we need to ask those dumb questions. That's something that I'm actually doing. I'm always asking stupid questions when I don't know what's going on, and then I find in the face of other people that I wasn't the only one, and they're relieved. And we should try to give back to the community. I read a tweet the other day, which says that there's no such thing as being self-taught, because surely you learned that from a blog, or Googling around, or from a forum, or maybe a video course or a video tutorial. Even though I started a lot of time ago and I'm really self-taught, the web was a bit more inclusive back then. We had MySpace and LiveJournal and Tumblr, where you could customize everything and you have to brute force your way to understand how it worked, because the markup was terrible and nothing made sense. But yeah, we should give back to the community, and there are lots of ways you can give a talk. I mean, if I'm standing here giving a talk, everybody can. I'm sure that everybody knows something or is passionate about something that they can talk about. Or you can volunteer teaching, for example, at IQ Future, and ruin the future of these poor people. Or you can blog about stuff, or you can pair program. There's a lot of ways to put yourself out there. You don't have to stay in your little niche. And especially, you should be less like, if you're like me, you should be less like yourself. You should be try to be more like my man Snoop Dogg over here.
I want to thank me. I want to thank me for believing in me. I want to thank me for doing all this hard work. I want to thank me for having no days off. I want to thank me for never quitting. I want to thank me for always being a giver and trying to give more than I receive. I want to thank me for trying to do more right than wrong. I want to thank me for just being me at all times. Snoop Dogg, you a bad motherfucker, dog.
And I promise you, you're all bad motherfuckers. You just have to do it. Thank you very much.